Secure Synopsis, 10th of June 2021. General Studies 2. The topic under this is government policies and intervention for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. So the Lakshadweep Islands issue is one of the best example for this topic because government is making some policies and interventions, but there are some design and implementational issues. So let's have a look at it. Critically assess the development plans that have been proposed for the Lakshadweep Islands. So the Lakshadweep UT administration has said Praful K. Patel's proposals are aimed at ensuring safety and well-being of residents, along with promoting the islands as a tourist destination, on par with Maldives. However, the residents view them as ripping the social and cultural fabric of the islands. Now let's have a look at the development plans proposed. On an island where crime rate is already low, administrator introduced a proposal to implement the Anti-Social Activities Regulation Bill 2021 or the Gunda Act. Under this act, anyone can be arrested without a trial for a period of up to 1 year. A draft on the Lakshadweep Development Authority Regulation 2021 has been another bone of contention. The draft gives the administrator powers to remove or relocate islanders from their property for town planning or any developmental activity. This is to make Lakshadweep like Maldives. Severe ecological concerns are raised about this plan. The draft bill gives the government and its body's arbitrary and unchecked power to directly interfere with an islander's right to possess and retain their property. The new proposal also includes introduction of liquor shops on the islands to fuel terrorism, which thus far have been restricted owing to a majority Muslim population. A change is also being brought about to the panchayat regulations wherein those people having more than two kids would be unable to contest for any panchayat elections. Among a string of changes, a beef ban has been proposed and non-vegetarian meals have been scrapped from the midday meals. The administration has decided to allow liquor to be served at resorts on uninhabited islands. Currently, prohibition is in place on all inhabited islands with liquor served only at resorts on the uninhabited Bangaram Island. As for COVID norms, earlier on the islands, a mandatory 14-day quarantine was put into place. However, now a negative RT-PCR would now suffice to enter the islands. This has caused concern for the locals. Alongside the islanders and people on social media, opposition leaders in Lakshadweep and neighboring Kerala have raised cause of concern. Residents have alleged that the move will lead to a proliferation of liquor sales on the island, which had been observing near prohibition until now. The change in COVID norms led to the island losing its green zone tag and a spurt in infections in subsequent months. As of May 28, the Union Territory has reported over 7,300 cases and 28 deaths. Islanders blame the administration for mismanagement in handling of the pandemic. Lawmakers in Kerala raised issues of locals. Majority of the 70,000 people in the island depend on fishing and government services, but the new administration demolished huts of fishermen, accusing coastal regulation zone violations. The measures of administrator were termed authoritarian and locals are severely protesting the same. This has also fueled demand for certain degree of autonomy to the people to administer themselves with elected representatives. So far, people in the Lakshadweep have been living pretty much with the bounds of ecological integrity of the islands. The new plans are feared to take agency away from the islanders. With the ingress of outside developers, islanders may feel alienated from their resources and land, which may fuel northeast like separatist movements. Adequate representation of the people must be given and their opinions valued before making major reforms. Salient features of the Representation of Peoples Act discuss in detail the key electoral reforms proposed by ECI while highlighting their significance. A free, fair, and unbiased electoral process, along with greater citizen participation, is fundamental to safeguarding the values of a democracy. Unfortunately, Indian electoral system is grappling with certain issues which have eroded the trust of many people in the country, such as role of black money, issues related to power of Election Commission of India, criminality in politics. Key electoral reforms proposed by ECI: making paid news an electoral offence, linking Aadhaar numbers to electoral roll, increasing the punishment for filing a false affidavit or to 2 years of imprisonment. ECI has returned to the government in this regard. Officials familiar with the matter said on condition of anonymity. ECI has been considering a wide range of electoral reforms to usher in digitization, removing duplication of voters and enabling remote voting for non-resident Indians, even migrant workers within the country. No official accountability, opacity in donations. Political parties receive majority of their funds through anonymous donations, approximately 70% through unknown sources as per ADR. With electoral bonds, ordinary citizens are not able to know who is donating how much money to which political party, and the bonds increase the anonymity of political donations. Also, parties are exempted from showing donations about 20,000, as electoral bonds are out of purview of this rule, which provides a channel for black money hoarders. Lack of action against bribes, the EC sought insertion of a new section 58B to RPA 1951 to enable it to take action if parties bribe voters of a constituency, which has not come to light. The maximum limit of 7.5% of the proportion of the profits of a company can donate to a political party has been lifted under electoral bonds, thus opening up the possibility of shell companies being set up specifically to fund parties. Allowing foreign funding, amendment of the Foreign Contribution Act has opened the floodgates of foreign funding to political parties, which can lead to an eventual interference in governance. Lack of transparency, despite provisions under Section 29 of RPA 1951, parties do not submit their annual audit reports to the Election Commission. Parties have also defied that they come under the ambit of RTI Act. ECI defied that they come under, so they're not agreeing for to come under the RTI Act. EC does not have the power to re-register a party for financial misgivings. Lack of internal democracy, though India is a multi-party democracy where citizens elect their leaders, the political parties are ridden with dynastic politics. There is no inner party democracy, and party works in a top-down manner. There can be no doubt that parties which function as elementary units in a competitive democracy must themselves be democratic in how they function, from choosing their leaders to formulating strategy in order for democracy to be substantive. Regional parties that are built around a towering leader do not even have any pretense of democratic decision making. Their leader's whim or fancy is the party's policy. The left parties call their idea of inner party functioning democratic centralism, but the stress is clearly on centralism. Steps taken by the government, model code of conduct in 2019 central elections. Super Court rebuked ECI for not taking action against violations of MCC. Posters, ECI banned political actors from campaigning for a given duration under its powers given by the Article 324. ECI also postponed the elections in Vellore constituency to curb electoral corruption under it. Provision of none of the above. Supreme Court in the People's Union for Civil Liberties versus Union of India case 2013 paved the way for the introduction of Nota. Decriminalization of politics under various judicial pronouncements, Lily Thomas case, various measures including declaration of criminal records, disqualification from uh, contesting elections. Menace of paid news. ECA has taken various steps to scrutinize, identify, and report cases of paid news. Voter verifiable order paper audit trail, machines to cross check EVM's results through a paper audit, completing another layer of accountability to the indigenously produced machines. The EC mandated that 5 VVPATs will be counted in each constituency as a verifying exercise. Candidate information in all Lok Prahari case, Supreme Court asked the center to amend the rules as well as the disclosure form filed by the candidates along with their nomination papers to conclude the sources of their income and those of other spouses, their spouses and dependents. Non-disclosure of assets and their sources would amount to a corrupt practice under Section 123 of the Representation of the People Act 1951. Are these enough? Weak response. ECI came under heavy criticism for its delayed action against the ruling party candidates on account of violation of MCC Model Code of Conduct as use of Indian Army in political rallies. Lack of capacity. The Election Commission is vested with absolute powers under Article 324 but still has to act according to laws made by Parliament, and it cannot transgress the same. Example, despite being the registering authority for political parties under Section 29A of the Representation of People Act 1951, it has no power to deregister them even for the gravest of violations. Money power needs to be curbed. Increasing criminalization. In the current Lok Sabha, nearly 44% legislatures have criminal cases against them. Lawbreakers cannot become lawmakers. Nota in India does not provide for a right to reject. Election Commission currently has no plenary power to call a fresh election even if Nota secures highest votes. Digital content. Most of the election related information flow does not happen via the IT cells of political parties but through third party contracts. Even though the ACI has evolved a self regulatory social media code for major players, still many platforms such as Telegram and WeChat are becoming increasingly relevant for political mobilization. Women's representation is tantamount to ensure democracy is inclusive. Currently, there are 78 women legislatures in Lok Sabha while it was 66 in 2014. There is a need for political will to bring in reform so that democracy in India is not only procedural but also substantive in nature. From a flawed democracy, India must become a thriving democracy. Free and fair elections cannot happen if political outcomes are determined by the money and muscle of candidates or class, caste, and gender distinctions. This discourages genuine candidates from contesting and winning elections. Election Commission must be strengthened and its role must be enhanced to achieve the objective of free and fair elections. Government policies and interventions for development in various sectors and issues arising out of their design and implementation. Hasty content moderation efforts are insufficient without a serious review of the business model that reinforces much of the drivers of disinformation and misinformation on the social media platforms critically analyze. The recent UNHRC report noted that the disinformation is false information disseminated intentionally to cause serious social harm. In contrast, misinformation consists in the dissemination of false information unknowingly. The report reflects upon governments that are trying to moderate content of social media under the garb of stopping infodemic. Issue with content moderation on social media. While the UNHRC condemned the disproportionate and blanket internet shutdowns, the report asserts that the reactive content moderation efforts are unlikely to make any worthwhile difference in the absence of a serious review of the business model that underpins much of the drivers of disinformation and misinformation. Problems of inconsistent application of companies, terms of service, inadequate redress mechanisms, and a lack of transparency and access to data re emerge constantly. Furthermore, all the platforms are global businesses. They do not appear to apply their policies consistently across all geographical areas or to uphold human rights in all jurisdictions to the same extent. Internet shutdowns do not curb disinformation but rather hamper fact finding and are likely to encourage rumors and are manifestly contrary to rights against discrimination when aimed at silencing minority voices and depriving them of access to vital information. However, the growth of disinformation in recent times cannot be attributed solely to technology or malicious actors, according to the report. Other factors such as digital transformation and competition from online platforms, state pressure, the absence of robust public information regimes, and digital and media literacy among the general public also matter. Moreover, disinformation mongers enhance the frustration and grievances of a growing number of people. Decades of economic deprivation, market failures, political disenfranchisement, and also social inequalities. Disinformation is thus not the cause but the consequence of societal crisis and the breakdown of public trust in institutions. Strategies to address disinformation will succeed only when these underlying factors are tackled. What's the way forward? Government must balance micromanaging social media platforms and national interest. Meanwhile, social media platforms must not violate user privacy by sharing user information to third parties or cross utilize the data so provided. India needs to make a law on data protection as soon as possible on the lines of Europe's general data protection regime. Though Twitter, Facebook have removed unwarranted hate speech and fake news posts, this may not be enough in the times of explosion of content sharing on social media. Standard guidelines agreeable universally is the need of the hour to regulate social media that does not prevent free speech while preventing misinformation. General Studies 3, Indian Economy and Issues Relating to Planning, Mobilization of Resources, Growth, Development, and Employment. Explain the concept of sustainable public procurement. Analyze the factors to be deliberated while making sustainable public procurement policy in India. Sustainable public procurement is a process whereby public sector meets its needs for goods, services, works, and utilities in a way that achieves value for money on a whole life cycle basis in terms of generating benefits not only to the organization but also to society while significantly reducing negative impacts on the environment, which is given in the UNEP 2015. A green procurement strategy leads to a reduction in consumption of resources, utilities, and energy, avoid waste and emissions, protects human health and biodiversity, increases the transparency of costs, and fosters innovation. It ensures fair working conditions and income while creating green jobs in the public supply chain. Target 12.7 of SDG 12 is to promote public procurement practices that are sustainable in accordance with national policies and priorities. The scale of public procurement in India is significant. According to Ministry of Finance, India spends around 25% of the GDP on public procurement. In 2018, a sustainable public procurement task force was constituted by the Ministry of Finance with a mandate of reviewing best practices in public procurement, inventorize the current status on sustainable public procurement across the government organizations in India draft a sustainable procurement action plan and recommend a stated set of product or service categories ways it can be implemented. Factors to be considered to make public procurement policy sustainable in India. It should aim at incentivizing production linked through local content requirements, thereby encouraging domestic manufacturers' participation in public procurement activities over entities merely importing to trade owners or assembled items. As public procurement utilizes a substantial portion of taxpayers' money, governments are expected to follow strict procedures to ensure that process is fair, efficient, transparent, and minimizes wastage of public process resources. The government and National Green Tribunal focusing on environmental well-being, a GPP policy should be transparent in terms of the scope of procurement activities it will cover and mechanisms for monitoring compliance and outcomes. Officials should be given adequate time to consider the impact of the changes and identifying any specific steps that need to be taken on their part. Wherever possible, it is advisable to discuss the criteria with existing and potential suppliers in advance of use in tenders as part of a pre procurement consultation exercise or a technical dialogue. Above all, GPP should go hand in hand with eco innovation policies aimed at stimulating market demand. Procuring environmentally friendly products and services is important for achieving sustainable development. SPP not only reduces waste and water consumption but also limits energy and carbon emissions. It supports fair and sustainable economic growth and delivers social benefits through procurement. SPP is not just green procurement, but it also involves social and ethically responsible procuring while minimizing environmental impact through the supply chain and maximizing economic benefits. Next topic is conservation, environmental pollution, and degradation environmental impact assessment. Highlight and discuss the mitigating potentials of various missions undertaken by the Government of India in order to achieve clean and green future of Indian cities. The delicate balance between sustainable development and environmental protection is one of the core targets of the UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. A networked approach to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals has been included in India's policy and political discourse over the 7 years. Missions undertaken by the government to achieve clean and green cities. First and foremost is Swachh Bharat India. The Swachh Bharat mission focuses on achieving an open defecation free India, building solid waste management capacity, and bringing about behavioral change. Through the annual Swachh Sarvekshan, cooperative and competitive federalism have become the driving force behind the citizen led Jan Andolan. It is estimated that the various initiatives under SBMU can mitigate 17.42 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of greenhouse gas emissions by 2022. Smart Cities Mission. The Smart Cities Mission has been the one taking charge of the technological advancement of our cities to improve governance, sustainability, and disaster risk resilience. Smart solutions are being implemented to improve energy efficiency and non motorized transport capacity in urban centers. The Climate Smart Cities assessment framework has been adopted, which aims to help cities adapt, collaborate, and exchange best practices to achieve international standards for green, sustainable, and resilient urban habitats. So far, the infrastructure for 417 kilometers of smart roads, solar panel generating 30 megawatt of energy, and 253 mld of wastewater treatment capacity has been completed. The overall reduction in GHG emissions from projects implemented under SCM is expected to reach 4.93 million tons of carbon dioxide by 2022. Under Amrut, water supply and management, energy efficiency, and increased green spaces have been part of the goal into 500 target cities. As of today, 1,831 parks over 3,700 acres have been developed. 85 lakh street lights have been replaced, resulting in energy saving of 185.33 crore units, and 105 water bodies have been rejuvenated. The mission is likely to result in the mitigation of 48 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of GHG emissions by 2022. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, with 1.12 crore houses sanctioned, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has focused on new construction technologies that are innovative, environmentally friendly, and disaster resilient. The Global Housing Technology Challenge was launched and 54 new technologies identified. The Prime Minister launched 6 lighthouse projects on January 1st, 2021. These are already under construction. Additionally, about 43 lakh houses are being constructed where fly ash bricks, blocks, and concrete blocks are being used. Overall, the mission has the potential to mitigate around 12 million tons carbon dioxide equivalent of GHG emissions by 2022. Today, a transformative wave of environmental consciousness, technological advancement, and holistic advanced development is driving the sustainable agenda. The balance between society, nature, and development is an intricate one pushed into the limelight by the COVID 19 crisis. Transitions brought forth by technological democratization, sustainable infrastructure building, behavioral change have helped us tackle the COVID 19 crisis while reaching out to these in need. Such a progressive track of urban development while keeping sustainability, disaster risk resilience, and community building at its core has been the guiding principle of the government. Topic conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, environmental impact assessment discuss the importance of leveraging natural gas to usher the green hydrogen era. Natural gas currently has about 6.6% of share in India's energy mix and is targeted to increase 15% by 2030. Natural gas is the cleanest fossil fuel and has wide usage across power industry and important sectors, transport sectors, but only has 40% smaller emission footprint than coal. Splitting water using renewable energy to produce green hydrogen is expected to be a viable, cost competitive, and carbon neutral energy source, but only by 2040. Green hydrogen can displace the natural gas wholly or partly in all sectors. Therefore, it is critical to strictly position natural gas as a transition fuel for immediate GHG reductions and enable the entry of hydrogen in a decade. Natural gas in energy transition. This is some good a good amount of chart given here. So high climate benefits, that is ideal for gas to grow market share or defend it. Gas less competitive, what happens? Gas more competitive, what happens? So gas can help advance decarbonization, but it is struggling to compete for market share. Gas can help advance decarbonization. Plus, gas is an incompetitive is in a competitive position to defend or must expand market share. So this is not required. Let's move on. Importance of natural gas. Natural gas has multiple uses and it is the greenest of all fossil fuels. Also, it is abundantly available in and within the Indian subcontinent. Natural gas is a feasible prospect because it will not generate the headwinds due to shutting down of coal mines. Further, it will not require industries to invest heavily in retrofitting their systems. Moreover, it will allow the government to meet its objective of providing secure and affordable energy to everyone without degrading the environment. The average global share of fossil fuels in the energy basket is 84%, which is even more for India. According to the International Energy Agency, India is the world's third largest consumer of oil. Dependence on coal and oil needs to be reduced, and natural gas has to be replaced as much as possible. What's the way forward to assure in the green hydrogen era? Deploying technologies in industry and transport that use natural gas now but are hydrogen ready. Adapting natural gas infrastructure to hydrogen, utilizing natural gas for producing hydrogen to kickstart the energy, green hydrogen ecosystem. In the green hydrogen economic story, the journey will be as important as the destination itself. If planned well, natural gas can play the role of a bridge fuel and not act as a barrier to the entry of green hydrogen. On the contrary, stigmatizing natural gas will only lock in more of the existing dirtier fossil fuels, further delaying the entry of green hydrogen. Last topic, General Studies 4, Citizens Charter. How Citizens Charter enhances the trust between government and citizen. Also analyze the causes for its ineffectiveness in India. A citizens charter represents the commitment of the organization towards the standard, quality, and time frame of service delivery, grievance redress mechanism, transparency, and accountability. The concept of citizens charter enshrines the trust between the service provider and its users. Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances in Government of India initiated the task of coordinating, formulating, and operationalizing the Citizens Charter. The basic objective of the Citizens Charter is to empower citizens in relation to public service delivery. Improvement in quality of public service delivery is the main thing, and this can be done through integrative approach, that is Citizens Charter, public grievance redressal, service delivery capacity. Importance of citizen charter in the governance of developing nation like India: to make administration accountable and citizen friendly, ensure transparency, take measures to improve customer service, to adopt a stakeholder approach, to save time of both administration and the citizen. Problems faced in implementation of citizens charter: one size fits all, tendency to have a uniform CC for all offices under the parent organization. CC have still not been adopted by all ministries departments. This overlooks the local issue. Silo operations devoid of participative mechanisms in a majority of cases, not formulated through a consultative process with cutting edge staff who will finally implement it. Non-dynamic structure. Charters are rarely updated, making it a one-time access frozen in time. Poor design and content. Lack of meaningful and succinct CC. Absence of critical information that end users need to hold agencies accountable. Lack of public awareness. A lot of them don't even know if the citizen charter is there. Stakeholders not consulted. While making the citizen charter, stakeholders such as NGOs, civil society organizations are not consulted. Measurable standards of delivery are rarely defined, making it difficult to assess whether the desired level of service has been achieved or not. Poor adherence, little interest shown by the organization in adhering to CC, since there is no citizen friendly mechanisms to compensate the citizen if the organization defaults. What's the way forward? Wide consultation process needs to be put in place. So CC has to be formulated by consulting a lot of stakeholders. Participatory process allow those people whom we have made as stakeholders in consultation process to be the participatory participants also. Firm commitments to be made. CC must be precise and make firm commitments of service delivery standards. Redressal mechanism has to be put in place so that any citizen should directly approach you and rectify the redressal. One size does not fit all. Formulation of CC should be a decentralized activity with the head office providing only broad guidelines. Periodic updation of CC, preferably through an external agency. Fix responsibility. Hold officers accountable for results. Fix specific responsibility in cases where there is a default in adhering to the CC. Citizens Charter is playing a prominent part in ensuring minimum government and maximum governments, changing the nature of charters from justiciable to non-justiciable and adopting penalty measures that will make it more efficient and citizen-friendly. The Sivotam model proposed by Second Administrative Reforms Commission for Public Service Delivery can be regarded as a standard model for providing services in citizen-centric governance. Thank you.